The Law Report with Karen Key.
And a very good evening to you from tonight's Law Report program. Well, as you know, once a month here on the Law Report, we run a legal clinic with attorney Nicoline Skuman-Low, and she's director of Skuman Law Inc., Attorneys, Conveyancers and Notaries Public. She's also the legal director of Net Value Holdings. So remember that, because that's going to come into play shortly. Well, this evening we'll also be taking a look at how to make your business BBBEE compliant. And this evening we'll be dealing with all those questions that don't usually fit into any of the other regular programs that we do on the Law Report, as well as taking a look at your business and BBBEE. Nicoline, hi, welcome back to the show on this rather chilly Cape Town evening.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Nicoline looks like she's ready for snow in the Arctic, and it's steaming hot in the studio. So any minute now she's taking off all those warm things. Before we begin, a reminder that there's a list of available documents on the Facebook page. It's Law on SAFM. If you'd like any of them, you just post a message on Facebook. But please remember to include your email address so I can send them to you. Or if you don't have access to Facebook, email me on law@safm.co.za and I can send you a copy of the list, and then you can choose what you'd like to have. But if you have any questions for us, you can call on 0892 10 2010, 0892 10 2010. But we have a couple of email questions, just three of them actually, to get through first. Right, Nicoline, the first one from Jacques says, I'm being sued for maintenance by the mother of my child. I'm unemployed for a while and I survive by doing odd jobs such as working as a security officer despite having a BComp degree. Many jobs I apply for clearly don't want a white male. Can I raise the fact that I can't find work due to the fact that I'm a white man? I have proof from the jobs I apply to in the form of emails and letters.
This is a very unfortunate situation, and particularly in an economic situation where many people are affected by this. So it's one of those unfortunate things in life. Unfortunately, my opinion is not such that he can use the fact or what the purported reason is for being rejected from these various applications as a legitimate way of not paying child maintenance. Unfortunately. So,
but what can he do? He's not working.
Well, he goes to court and says, I'm unemployed. And when and if the situation changes, then of course one will have to be honest. I would recommend that he's honest, approaches the court at that point, and then requests for an amendment to the court order. But generally speaking, the courts do consider all the circumstances regarding the financial ability of a person to pay for child maintenance. They won't overburden a party, particularly someone who doesn't have employment, in paying child maintenance if they're simply not able to do so. But still, one will have to try and make ends meet and try and make these payments. It is your child after all, and there is a responsibility regardless of an unfortunate situation. So,
but there is recourse. He can go to court and explain the situation.
I don't think the fact raising any reasons, regardless of what they are, for job applications being rejected would find any particular relevance in a court. The fact that he is unemployed, that will have relevance.
Would it not help him if he took the emails and the letters that were rejecting his applications to prove that he is trying to find employment, regardless of what the reason for not getting it is?
Yes.
But he is making an effort to get employment. So not to be sitting around saying, well, I just can't find a job.
Yes, of course. You'll with these type of applications, it's very important just to be honest about what is really going on, and when the situation changes, to similarly be honest.
Okay, well, the next question from Lumko is I'm still quite shocked just even thinking about it. He says, a couple divorces and the court rules on the split of the pension. The wife was not working and the husband worked for the government for over 30 years and has 1.8 million rand saved as pension. The sticky point is this: the wife gets her share and it's borrowed from pension fund coffers. Now, the husband will pay 52,000 rand interest monthly on the money borrowed from the pension fund, which means that by the time the husband retires in 7 years' time, he will have a negative balance owing in the pension fund coffers. He is considering resigning immediately to save his pension money that's still left. This borders on sexism since the wife got her share, and with time, hubby won't be left with anything but negative balance. What is the recourse for equity here?
This is really
It doesn't sound
shocking.
right.
And no, it most definitely doesn't sound right. The only way in which to prevent a court order from being enforced, particularly if you believe that the effects thereof will have such an unfair negative effect, would be to approach the court and apply for an amendment to the court order so that the pension split doesn't happen immediately. I'm surprised if this is in fact accurate, that whoever represented the husband, or the listener in this case, in other words, didn't advise them of the effects this would practically have on their pension fund. Be that as it may, this doesn't sound right. The 52,000 Rand per month interest, that sounds extremely high, and on that basis seems very much impossible. Many pension funds actually, particularly if this would be the effect of borrowing money to pay out a spouse's share, simply do not allow for this to happen. So many pension funds, and this has been quite an interesting topic in many circles regarding divorce orders and pension splits, that pension funds, if they see that something like this is going to happen, make sure that their rules do not accommodate for the immediate payout of the pension to the ex-spouse. In other words, they delay it until the pension falls due and then the spouse gets her or his share, as the case may be. So I'm very surprised that if it would have such a negative effect on the husband in this case, that the pension fund, or for that matter, the attorney representing this person, would not have advised against the negative effects. So if this is not a misunderstanding or miscommunication of sorts, I would recommend that the listener, as a matter of urgency, seeks legal advice, both on the aspects of the pension fund and whether their rules and regulations are actually going to make this happen or result in this, and B, whether if this is in fact the case and it is accurate, then this court order needs to be amended. Please don't leave your job as a result of this. Jobs are very scarce. Employment is not easily found these days. So particularly if you're so close to retirement.
Right. Next one, the last email we have is, how do I get a legal protection for a business mobile app which I've just started developing, but I'm stuck because I need financial assistance, and to get it, it means I must now divulge the details of my idea to a third party. Could you advise on this matter? This is a whole copyright issue, I would imagine.
Yeah, copyright and also particularly in the technology space, so many hijackings of ideas happen on a daily basis. So not only in technology, but I always recommend clients, if you have a groundbreaking, innovative idea, if it's technology-based or not, and you need to negotiate with a potential investor or a financier, you make them sign a non-disclosure agreement. Now, if they still want to hijack your idea, they'll do it regardless of any paperwork that you sign, but at least if you have to take them on in court, then you can definitely at least have a leg to stand on. You don't have to jump over a few hurdles and prove that it was your idea, not his or hers. You can immediately go into the enforcement stage. So sign a non-disclosure agreement. These are fairly standard that any attorney can assist in drafting up.
But rather do that than don't get this amazing app, which I'm hoping we'll all find out about soon.
Yeah.
Business mobile app. And please do let us know what it is and how it goes. We'd love to hear how it goes. So please do keep in touch with us. Right, before we get to the calls, we do have some standing by there. But before we get there, we were hoping this evening also to talk about Triple BEE. And I mentioned that you were the legal director of Net Value Holdings. And we were hoping to have the managing director on with us. But unfortunately, he succumbed to the flu. So we haven't got him with us this evening. But Net Value Holdings, tell me, and what is that and how does that come into being with the Triple BEE story?
Well, together with Middle and Partners, an auditing firm who has a national footprint, Skuman Law, the firm that I'm involved in and the managing director of, launched proudly the first Triple BEE solution, which addresses all the scorecard elements, including the ownership element. So in a nutshell, Net Value Holdings is a new concept, a new business that was launched in May. It was launched in Johannesburg as well as in Cape Town, and it's got a twofold business model, if you want to call it that. Firstly, it's an investment company, equity investment company, and through that it addresses the element of ownership on the BEE scorecard. And as for all the other elements of the scorecard, there are BEE services that are rendered. So employment equity plans that are put together for clients, your skills development plans, your learnership registrations, all these things that you need in order to comply with the remaining 4 scorecard elements are covered under the service delivery portion of it. So essentially any a company that would want to ensure that they become compliant if they're not compliant with BEE at all, or any business who is partially compliant at this stage, and with these new codes that have already become effective, it's really crucial to make sure that you do not only comply with 1 or 2 of the elements or focus on some of them but not on all of them, purely because we are now heading into a new chapter of BBBE compliance. And both Anton, the managing director of Net Value Holdings, as well as myself, concur that with the change in the industry regarding these codes, you will not have a choice of partially complying versus fully complying versus not complying at all. You'll have 2 types of businesses going forward. You'll have compliant businesses and you'll have non-compliant businesses. Nothing in between. So this is really a solution out there to turn what many writers have called the biggest risk to business, to the economy, in the South African context right now, to the biggest opportunity.
Because it could be a bit of a minefield for those not quite sure what they're doing.
I can't tell you how
Maybe
many.
it's not a bit of a minefield, it's a huge, big minefield.
It's a huge, huge minefield because besides the poor advice from professionals that I'm really sorry to say that I've seen in the last 12 months, you also have consultants out there, and really no offense to those that have that know their stuff and that are really rendering a good service. But unfortunately, there are also those out there that are doing exactly the opposite, that are selling templates to unsuspecting businesses out there under the premise of making them compliant, under the premise of supporting them to become that. Once they have the money, they drop the template off and they run away. And those businesses end up sitting in my office not understanding why they've spent sometimes hundreds of thousands of rands towards becoming compliant and still being in the same position as the previous year with their BEE verification, or even worse. The latest trend, and I think we've seen it in the DTI's notices that they have that they've issued of late, retracted again, and still debating as it now stands, is the whole clamping down on employee share schemes and broad-based share schemes, and where the DTI has taken a stance a couple of weeks ago that these schemes should not count towards as many of the ownership points as people have been benefiting from. Now, an employee share scheme particularly is a very useful tool provided it is used correctly, and if it's put up carefully, professionally. It's one of the most valuable tools to groom people who have been with you, who you know you can invest in, and hopefully one day have as partners within your business or have serve on your board. So luckily the DTI has reconsidered that notice of saying that those schemes will not count as many points anymore. And we are eagerly awaiting the clarification of what exactly the intention will be regarding these structures. Because if they are set up correctly, they're very valuable.
When BEE started, there was this whole big thing about fronting. Is that still an issue?
Fronting has been criminalized now. Fronting is very serious. There are all sorts of new definitions attached to fronting. So people need to be very careful of trying to circumvent compliance. We recommend at Net Value, you need to embrace BEE for what it is and for what it intends to achieve. Yes, there's been abuse by certain companies, by private sector. The abuse has been not limited to only public or private sector for that matter. So it's something that has a good intention and can really transform our country for a very good purpose. So if one embraces it ethically, responsibly, I do really believe you'll reap the benefits of your investment.
Now, something like Net Value, is this only for big companies or can smaller companies? Would this be something, I mean, who would this benefit?
Well, at the moment, we're really looking at clients with a turnover of between 10 and 50 million. That is what we call in terms of the Triple BE scorecard, the QSEs, or Qualified Small Enterprises. So the guys in that bracket need to be verified by a verification agent. So the guys below the 10 million threshold can simply have an affidavit by their board of directors, or they can still get their accounting officer to issue a certificate. So you don't really need to have such a big investment in terms of complying with the 5 elements if you are below 10 million. However, if you are in a very competitive space for tenders and you are running a small business, and the automatic level 4, if you are not wholly black owned, of course, is not good enough for you, then as a smaller enterprise, you can most definitely see the website of Net Value. Hopefully in the next week or so, the launch video will be available so that you can get a bit of an idea of how this is all put together, and many of the questions regarding or concerns that people would have are addressed through this video. And if you need more information, then sessions can be arranged with Anton, the Managing Director, to answer all the questions you may have. And from that point onwards, the negotiation starts.
So I did actually look at the website, and some of the questions are frequently answered questions. There are some of them do have little videos that Anton's done.
Yes.
So it does explain it a little bit more. So there's a lot of information on the website already.
We've purposefully done it that way so that one of the values that Net Value Holdings subscribes to is transparency. Transparency, integrity in terms of the ethics with which the business is run and with which the solution is presented. No shortcuts. So I want to make it very clear, anyone looking for a shortcut to compliance, don't phone. We are really looking for opportunities to invest, because foremost, as I've said, Net Value is an investment company as well as a service provider. So from an investment side, as much as you want us to invest in you through the value-added offerings that we can give you, we also want to make an investment with like-minded, BE-sensitive companies. In other words, that they really want to comply and they want to put strategies in place that will not only benefit on the short term, but also benefit on the long term. And with that, we are more than willing to partner with you and to walk the road. But no quick fixes, unfortunately.
And otherwise, don't bother phoning. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a look at the website, I will give it out again a bit later. It's netvalue.co.za. Quite simple website. Go and have a look at that. All the information, as I said, is on there. And it's well, I always like to explain things. If I can understand it, then pretty much everybody can. So it's been put together in such a way that it's very simple. It's easy to understand. You know, if you need any further information, all the contact details are on there. You can get in touch with them and they can explain the further details that whatever you need to know from there.
Yes. And you know, we as a law firm, we support all the legal work that happens. We're also specialists in Triple BE. It's one of our core focus areas within the practice. So all the needs are professionally handled. Anton, as I've mentioned, the managing director, is also a CASA. He's a chartered accountant by profession. So it was very important for us from the outset that everything is done by people who subscribe to very high ethical standards in terms of our own professions and as persons, so that those values are very much inherent not only to the businesses that we already belong to and have been a part of, but also this new endeavor. So it's really something that could help that business who really wants to take it to the next level, or if you don't really know how the new codes are going to affect you, don't wait. You don't necessarily have another year, depending on when your financial year end was. Many people are under the misconception that we all still have another year. Not all of us do.
Oh,
so make sure you know when your financial year end is, and if it is before the 28th of February this year, you already fall under the new codes. And you need to know how that affects you. And if you're not ready, please get ready now, and spare yourself the business losses and the tears by the time you need to be verified again.
Right, so you've heard it here first, netvalue.co.za. Go and have a look at the website. And if you need any further information, there's a number as well. It's 021-851-6531. That's their phone number, 021-851-6531. And if you have any questions about Triple BEE, or even if you just have a general question for our law clinic this evening, you can give us a call now on 0892 10 2010, 0892 10 2010. And our first call is up from the Free State. Mlamli, good evening.
Good evening, Karen. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
All right. Good evening to your guest as well.
Hi there.
Yes. Karen, I got divorced in May. A divorce decree was issued which declared the marriage null and void, and also for the estate to be divided between us, 50%. Now, subsequently, last week, I got a summons from the sheriff saying the lady has sued me for support of 4,000. Now, what I want to understand, is there any basis for support? Because we never had kids with the wife. And if I'm to contest it, how should I argue it in court, you see? Because I don't know what the support is for.
Well, in terms of the Divorce Act, there's something called...
Karen,
Yes.
can I listen on the radio?
Yes, Mlamli. We might need to ask you some questions, though. Do you want?
No.
No. Okay, it's fine, Mlamli. You can listen on the radio.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the call. Right.
In terms of the Divorce Act, there's something called spousal maintenance. In terms of the Children's Act, my apologies, you deal with child maintenance. So it's two very different sets of maintenance. One is for the ex-spouse, in this case the ex-wife, and the other is in terms of not related to marriage, but if you had children, whether in or outside of wedlock, and they're biologically related to you, then you must pay for their maintenance, schooling, medical care, etc. So just first and foremost, there's two types of maintenance. When it comes to spousal maintenance, there are quite a few factors that the court considers. A, how long you've been married, how old you are, how likely it would be for the ex-wife to get remarried, the standard of living she was accustomed to when the marriage was still in force and in existence, and the ability for her to maintain herself. So, amongst other things, there's a whole long list that the court considers. So, if you feel that she's not entitled to maintenance, it needs to bring up one of those elements to say, we weren't married for that long, I wasn't the breadwinner perhaps, we paid for everything 50-50, or we contributed equally, or she looked after herself and I looked after myself. So there was never a creation of financial dependence between us. Or she's really young and there's a good likelihood she'll get married really soon to a second person, or whatever the case might be. So that will really be the thoughts behind the argument.
Also her ability to find a job, I would imagine.
Yes. So the spousal maintenance is not to enrich someone. It is to take care of someone who is not in a position to do that at that stage.
And this isn't a permanent thing. This could just be for an interim period.
Usually when people are younger, it is usually only for an interim period. If people get divorced and they are very close to retirement age and they were married for 50 years, it changes the situation quite drastically, because then the likelihood of that person finding employment or marrying someone else or etc., really becomes less likely.
And just for people listening to this could work both ways. I mean, this could be a husband suing a wife for maintenance.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't mean
It's
it's only the
not.
woman that's looking for the spousal
Yes.
maintenance. It could work the other way as well.
Very much so. Whenever there is a creation of financial dependence on the other, and quite interestingly, and I know this is slightly off the topic, but it's very much the same when couples are unmarried and only living together. You need to have what we call a cohabitation agreement.
Because there's no such thing as this common law wife
No.
or husband. People had this idea that there was this thing, and therefore there was some legal bindings thing. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist in South Africa. I think there's a misconception because it exists in some of the states in America, that it also applies to South Africa. It absolutely does not. And if you have not predefined financial dependence, or saying, I'll pay my way, you pay your way, or we go 50-50 or whatever.
It's got to be in a document.
If it's not in a document, then someone can always go to court and argue, no, but now I can't look after myself and I want something like spousal maintenance now. That happens on so many occasions, and sometimes it's really just because there's bad blood between the parties. So really do look after yourself and look out for yourself. If you're not married, get those agreements in place.
And it's called a cohabitation
agreement. These days, Home Affairs for visa purposes are actually enforcing it with a bit of an iron fist. That you need to have one of those in order to prove the legitimacy of your relationship for visa purposes. So I guess it's a question of time before it was called the, not Civil Unions Act, but something similar. It was supposed to work in conjunction with the Civil Unions Act, so that people who, for whatever reason, choose not to get formally married but live together could register their cohabitation agreements either in the deeds office or with Home Affairs, like you do an antenup.
Okay.
So seems that they're sort of getting their footwork right to push that piece of legislation through sooner than we think.
And quite honestly, it only safeguards everybody.
It would be great.
That's all it's doing, really, is safeguarding each party.
And also it protects you so that your partner doesn't have those type of agreements with 10 other people.
Yes.
And you don't know about that,
yes.
And they make a bit of money on the side, for visa purposes.
I don't have such a devious mind, Nicolene. You obviously have come across these types of people in the past. If you have any questions, 0892 10 2010, 0892 10 2010. Tommy in Durban has a question on triple BEE, Nicolene. Tommy, good evening.
Good evening, and good evening to your guest.
Thank you.
Hi. You mentioned that the net value holdings assist the big companies in complying with BEE.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I just want to find out now, on the other side, on the flip side, how do you assist small start-up businesses which could benefit from BEE in terms of supplier development and enterprise development that are in operation and would benefit from building relations with big businesses?
Most definitely. We would definitely support those businesses on a basis of keeping a supplier database. So many established businesses have their suppliers that they like working with. Many of those suppliers, because of these new codes, will not be compliant any longer. So they are then left to either urge their supplier to become compliant within a reasonable period of time. And if they fail to do so, then the harsh reality is the relationship will be severed, and that's really when, in the normal course of events, the door will then be open for considering a new supplier as a whole. So from a procurement perspective, most definitely, you can send your details to through on the website, and someone will get in touch with you.
Okay, most definitely, because I've noticed that it becomes very difficult for a small business to approach the big businesses in terms of asking for building a relationship on supplier development and enterprise development.
Yeah, there's unfortunately, I think there's been a lot of people who have approached big business with big ideas, but not necessarily with the capacity from a skills perspective or financial perspective to really bring the product or the service that they are offering to the market as they would have hoped to do. And when that relationship gets damaged, it's very unfortunate, but it creates a bit of a bitter taste in the mouth on both sides. Similarly, when big business makes promises that they don't keep, when they don't pay on time or pay only after 90 days. I mean, my practice started off as a small business myself. That can really choke you to death. So,
yeah.
So Tommy, you've got the website. It's netvalue.co.za, and all the contact details are on there.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the call.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy. Good night to you. Off to Alberton, David, also with Triple BEE. David, good evening. Hello, David. No, David's doesn't seem to be there. I'm not quite sure where David is, but David will be with us shortly. I think he's still being set up. We've got quite a few coming up on Triple BE. We'll get to those in a moment. But yes, so you were talking to Tommy there. So the smaller businesses, there are portions of what they do that you could assist them with.
Most definitely. At the moment, particularly if supplier relationships are very important to the customers that we will have, or the investee companies as we call them, if it's important to them to maintain those relationships, then we will obviously try and help those suppliers become compliant through using essentially the same model that we would apply to the investee companies. However, in many instances, suppliers aren't interested in doing that. And if that is the case, the client will have to make a decision. Because this is call it a domino effect. If your supplier's BE score is poor, it affects yours. And if you are head to head with some other person contending for a tender or for a large corporate contract, half a point or less can maybe be a deal breaker.
Right, I think we've found David now. David in Alberton, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to you and good evening to your guest.
Thank you, David.
Hi.
How can we help you?
Yes, please. We also have a business. We had a one on the Triple BE because we are a non-white company. Mm-hmm. But now, since we didn't trade for the whole year last year, they gave us a 3 now when we renew, because it was due now in June. So what do we do now?
So when was
to get a free status back?
Well, you need to be verified. How big is your business, if you don't mind me asking, in terms of turnover?
Okay. Well, it was over 30 million.
Okay.
The previous financial year.
But now, because you haven't traded, I'm sure it will be below 10.
Yes.
So then you can automatically qualify if you are more than 51% black owned as a value added exempt micro enterprise, which will automatically, yes, you'll automatically get a higher status. So just check what your turnover would be exactly, and if you do comply with the threshold of the exempt micro enterprises, then just approach your accounting officer and have them issue a certificate. I know the new regulations do make provision for an affidavit, which you could yourself sign to confirm your turnover and confirm your status. But from my experience, suppliers and customers don't really take kindly to those affidavits.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Particularly your big business. If you are contending for those contracts, they quite frankly don't take you seriously with one of those affidavits. I've heard of many clients saying that they just pay the 5 or the 700 rand or whatever the accounting officer charges, because it holds a little bit more weight than the certificate that you could generate yourself.
Okay. Thank you so much.
It's a
Thank you,
pleasure. All
David.
the best.
Good luck
Thank
to
you for
you.
the show and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, you too, and thanks for getting through.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, okay, we've lost David. Right, off he goes. And we're going off to Durban. Marco, good evening. Want to know about a company car, Marco?
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
I have a little bit of a good evening, Nicoline.
Hi.
Thanks for your input. I just need some advice. I've got a bit of an awkward scenario. A year ago, my brother asked me to come up to Johannesburg from Durban and help him start up a business, okay? And I packed up my business down here, and I went up there and took all my machines up there and everything, and he hadn't done his homework properly, so the raw materials in the business, it didn't work out, so that's one thing. But then I went up there with my own car, and he said to me while I was there, instead of paying for the car every month, give it back to the people, and he had an Audi station wagon. He said, you can have this, I've already paid it off, And then we signed a document together that within a year the car would be put into my name. Now the year's up, and he's not sending me the papers. I don't know, he's got some trouble with his wife or something, whatever. But now I'm sitting with a car that the license is expiring, and it's a problem to me. I can't sell it now because I don't have the papers, and I was just wondering, what do I do with this situation?
Tell me, is your brother not at all willing to sign the paperwork in order to fix the registration and get the registration papers in order?
I don't know what the problem is. We've had no fights or anything, but for some reason, I think his wife's holding him back.
Oh, that's always such a sticky situation.
But I have a signed document with a witness and everything on the agreement that we made on this situation.
But he's not physically signing the paperwork over.
Well, he's not sending me the paperwork, yeah.
I see.
I've got buyers for the car and everything. I need to sell it to get a bucket to work, because I'm an electrician.
Yes.
And I'm really stuck right now. I was just wondering what...
I see. The traffic department is quite adamant with regards to selling.
Must be the owner.
You must be the owner, so the paperwork must be in order, and you must also have all the original registration papers. They are very much non-negotiable when it comes to that. So I'm afraid
I tried that venue, but obviously not going to help me without his consent.
Yes. But, so you have to get his signature on the paperwork, and hopefully amicably. If you can't manage that, you will have no choice than to approach an attorney, maybe sending off a letter, or the attorney making a phone call to him. Maybe that resolves it relatively amicably, and you get that signature and problem solved.
Do you at least have the registration papers?
No, I've got the papers from when we bought the license when I left.
No, there's a registration
and
original.
I've got the contract that we signed together.
No, he needs to send you the original registration paper. Plus, you need that transfer paper. That I think it's a blue form.
The yellow one.
Or the yellow one. Okay. I get they have all these multicolored forms at the traffic department.
Okay.
But you need both. You need that form and you need the original registration form.
Okay, but now if he's being like obstreperous with me and he doesn't want to help me out, which route should I take?
Then you have to go to court. So what I'm saying is that the cheaper and less aggressive, call it that, option would be to get an attorney to maybe just give him a phone call, ask him to just please sign the papers, get it over and done with. Please bring the original registration papers in. Maybe that resolves the matter and there it ends. If that doesn't work, you'll have to approach court.
And then what? Will I charge him with fraud or what?
Yes. You'll have to. No, you don't. No, you don't charge him with fraud or anything like that. You'll just bring an application to court to compel him to sign the transfer papers and to deliver to force him to deliver the original registration papers.
Okay, so basically to bring up his end of the agreement.
Yes, yeah.
To enforce the agreement, essentially, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, leave any criminal charges out of it.
I don't want it to get funny. I don't
No, of
know
course
what
not. I
happened.
mean, it's family after all.
I don't know what's going on. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, Marco. It doesn't
Good
sound like a
luck,
nice
eh?
position to be in, but good luck to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the call. Good night to you. Right, well, we are off to the Free State now. Jeremiah, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm not good.
Oh, what's the matter, Jeremiah?
Listen, I encountered some problem with in community of property.
Mm-hmm.
I had a wife. I didn't have kids with her. I didn't have anything with her. Then we went through divorce in community of property, and she couldn't debate the divorce. She didn't pitch up for the divorce because at the time she was pregnant with another man's baby.
Mm-hmm.
And she left me alone in the house by that time. And when the divorce decree came through, said we should share everything, of which everything turns out to be my house, of which when she got in my life, I had the house. Now I want to understand what is the meaning of in community of property, whereas if someone is in get involved with you in a marriage, in community of property, when you separate, they manage to sell everything that you had.
I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. A marriage in community of property essentially means everything that you and your spouse has before marriage and accumulate during marriage gets shared 50-50. So everything you had, the house, everything you had before you got married, you share with her 50-50, becomes half of hers the minute you get married. And so does all your debts as well. So everything you have in terms of assets before marriage, during marriage, and any liabilities or debts that you have before the marriage and during the marriage gets split 50-50.
I mean, the only way that Jeremiah could possibly maintain or retain the house is to
buy
buy her
her
out. You know, to pay her in cash for the half of the house, Jeremiah.
I've already tried that, but you wouldn't let me do that.
But why? What if she would have get the money anyway?
Then you need to approach the court to amend the court order to allow that.
Already the divorce is finished.
Yeah, even if
But
the
now
divorce
the
is
thing
finished,
that
you
I
can
don't
still do that.
understand is she didn't even contest the divorce.
That doesn't matter, unfortunately. It's just a formality. If she doesn't, she makes it easier for you to get the divorce done quicker if she doesn't contest it.
Okay.
I'm really sorry. Please, next time, if you ever do get married again, have an anti-nuptial contract so that you don't have this again.
But now, Jeremiah, you said the divorce was finished, and who wouldn't let you buy her out of the house?
Yep, they wouldn't. But
Who?
She
wouldn't, or who wouldn't?
The lawyers that were handling the divorce wouldn't let me buy her out.
But that's ridiculous because she would get the money either way. I mean, so what is the
Yeah,
problem?
that's usually, they usually say you either, and it's common cause, I deal with quite a lot of these types of conveyancing matters, in other words, to transfer the property. And in many instances, the ex-spouse buys the other out, and then we just fix the registration papers in the deeds office.
Now, how long ago was the divorce finalized, Jeremiah?
It was about 3 years back.
Is that too late? And what happened to the house? Where's the house now?
The house has been sold.
Oh, it's been sold. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I'm renting now. I can't get any house now.
Oh, that's horrible. I'm so sorry to hear this.
Okay.
Next time, please make sure that you hire yourself an attorney that can advise you properly, because it doesn't sound like you were advised properly.
No,
but
there won't be
if
next
everything
time
has
because-
been done, then
Yeah.
if there is a next time, if you meet the right person, then please have an anti-nuptial contract.
No, I won't. This one is perfect than the other one.
Oh, Jeremiah, I'm so sorry you had such a bad...
I found myself an angel.
You found yourself an angel?
Yes.
So you're happy now?
Yeah, I'm happy. 100%.
That's good. Oh, well, there was a next time. He's already found himself somebody
That's
nice.
fantastic.
I'm so pleased. You deserve that after that horrible situation, Jeremiah.
Yes.
Well, good luck to you. I hope you have a very happy future.
And you too, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye-bye now. If you have any questions, we've got 10 minutes left. The number 0892 10 2010. 0892 10 2010. Can I just pick up on Jeremiah's case? Because that really bothers me. He was just wanting to know what it was what an community of property was. But there's anti-nuptial, but there's also anti-nuptial with accrual. Could you just while we're on the topic, just go through those quickly?
No, definitely. I always start off these conversations with saying that if you don't have an anti-nuptial contract, regardless, because as you rightfully mentioned, Karen, there are two options, with accrual and without. So if you don't have an anti-nuptial contract, regardless of which one you've chosen, you're married in community of property. And that then means you share everything. Everything you had, everything you will have.
In Jeremiah's case, his house he had before he got married is now gone.
Everything from a positive and a negative perspective. So there could be a flip side of the coin of just standing in for your wife or husband's debts that were incurred before you even knew each other. So it's really
It's dangerous.
You could obviously apply to court to relieve yourself from debts prior to, but there's never really clear-cut certainty, and many people don't know that they can do this. So you are just held responsible for it. So the de facto position or the default position is always whatever you have or have in future, you share, whether positive or negative. With the anti-nuptial contract, which avoids that situation in totality. So regardless of which one of the two you choose, you don't have commingling of debts, commingling of assets, unless, of course, you want to share on own accord when you have an anti-nuptial contract, regardless of which one you choose. So the first one is really the most important or the easier one of the two, and not the most important. I don't believe either one of the options is superior or inferior. And that's essentially what is mine and what is yours. So that which you prove ownership of, that you can walk out with essentially when it comes to the marriage out of community of property without accrual. With accrual essentially incorporates a calculation to take place when the marriage dissolves, meaning when someone dies, either of you or if a divorce were to happen. And that calculation essentially takes in consideration everything that you've built up whilst you were married, and you deduct what you came in with. So you do a bit of a calculation of all the assets you have in going into maybe that house. In Jeremiah's case, would have then been excluded from that calculation. And then there's a proportion of sharing between.
So is it almost like having an anti-nuptial contract with a community of property in the middle?
Many people call it that, but there's no commingling of ownership. There's no commingling of debts. It's just a calculation to say, that which we build up together, we share. That which we didn't build up together, which came before our marriage, or we have purposefully excluded from this. So typically we exclude things like pensions. We exclude things like family heirlooms.
So we wouldn't have that problem with the 52,000 Rand in one of our first SMSs.
It's something I am very insistent on in recommending to my clients, to exclude your pension, because if you don't have any funds to pay your share of the sharing, then people look at pensions and, we don't want to go there.
Crippling. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've just got a few minutes left, and Ben's in Yeovil. Ben, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
I'd like to know if one buys property, a house, for example, the price which is shown on the title deed printout, does it include the cost of the conveyancer and stamp duty and so on? And then the other question is, I've got a friend who, runs around and take over old houses. What he does is that he registers different companies and he does not run those houses with those companies. Is that legal?
Let's go to your first question first.
Right.
The price that is advertised either by estate agents on these property websites, on their website, or on Gumtree or wherever, newspaper, wherever it is advertised, is only the price to purchase the property. It doesn't include the conveyances fees. It doesn't include your transfer duty that you pay to SARS either. So it's always good to get a cost estimate from an attorney. Our firm, for example, has a tariff sheet on our website so that people wanting to buy property can see what the fees and the transfer duty and the VAT and all of the costs will be. So there's also quite a few attorneys firms that have calculators and that you can put in the purchase price, and it shows you all the registration and other costs. So many of the firms offer that. So no, it's not included. As for your second question,
the first one, I mean, you see, if you go to the deeds office,
yes,
and you pull out a printout,
yes,
it shows the price, the purchase price of that property.
Yes, which the previous owner paid.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That price that appears there on
yes.
there, does it include conveyances fee and all that?
No.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's the same price that an estate agent would use to advertise the property.
Oh, okay, now.
It's the same principle.
Okay, very quickly.
Oh, okay. The second question, the property, the properties being bought in different companies. It doesn't sound that anything is illegal if all the companies are properly registered, if the properties are properly transferred into the names of those companies, and even if they only have one person owning them being your friend, in other words, one person being the shareholder of those companies or director of those companies, that doesn't sound illegal just by the mere fact.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ben.
Sure.
Good night to you.
Goodbye.
We just have a few minutes. Hopefully we can squeeze Jerome in Johannesburg. Hopefully we can squeeze your question in. Jerome, how can we help you? Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you, Karen?
Very well, thank you. How can we help you, Jerome?
Good. Karen, I'm staying at a complex called Joshko, with a housing company.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of it with housing. So now I want to know, man, if you're in arrears with your premiums at the complex,
Your levies.
are they allowed to take legal steps even though you pay your installment every month?
Yes, unfortunately. Because your levy pays for the maintenance of the building and the upkeep of the common areas. It's a different payment than your payment in terms of your bond.
It's not a bond, it's a complex.
Yes, but you
Are you renting?
Yes.
So you're paying rent, and what is this other thing, this premium use? What is that?
No, it's your monthly rent.
Oh, your rent. Just the rent to the landlord. Is that what you're talking about?
It's correct, yes, but it's a complex.
Okay, and you wanting to find out whether if you don't pay the rent to the landlord, whether the landlord can take legal steps against you?
No, what they do is then they send threatening letters out to the tenants who are in arrears to rather have the property. But my question is, if you do pay every month, even if you are in arrears, is there anything you can do?
If you do pay, even though you're in arrears, so you missed some months.
The line is very
This line
bad.
is awful, Jerome. This line is really, really bad. We can't really hear you terribly well, but I think what we're going next week is actually our property law week. So I've got your name and I've got your number. So what we will do next week, Jerome, when we have our property attorney on, we will call you back then, and hopefully we'll have a better line, and we can then chat with you then about what your problem is with the rent, if that's okay. Can you hear me now, Jerome? Oh, is that okay, Jerome?
I do hear you clearly now.
Okay, that's great. We will call you on the show next Monday when we have our property lawyer who will be in here. Ishmael Mohammed will be with us, and I'm sure he'll be able to help you.
No, that's excellent.
Okay, so we'll call you next Monday. So wait for the call.
Yeah, okay. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Jerome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
Right, well, my thanks once again this evening to Nicoline Skuman-Loh. She's the director of Skuman Law Inc., attorneys, conveyancers and notaries public that practice here in Cape Town, and she's also legal director of Net Value Holdings, and she's been my guest on tonight's edition of the Law Report program. Nicoline, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And interesting about all this triple BEE, and I'll give out all those contact details, and it's netvalue.co.za if you wanted to get hold of them, and the phone number in Cape Town is 021 851 6531 021 851 6531. And if you've missed any of those contact details, just drop me a line to law@safm.co.za and I'll send those contact details to you. Well, Nicoline will be back with us again for another law clinic on Monday the 13th of July. And as I said, the website for Net Value is netvalue.co.za.